My name is Dan Hurd. I'm actually from Amherst, New York, and part-time photographer, part-time YouTuber.
How did you get started in photography?
It's actually kind of an interesting story. I kind of backed into photography, I guess you could say. I wasn't really planning on being a photographer. I've always, or I shouldn't say always, but for many years, I flew radio-controlled airplanes. Uh, and I ran across a YouTube video that was showing what drones could do, and I was like, holy cow. I had no idea drones were that advanced, so I bought a drone initially for fun, but I kind of have an entrepreneurial mind, I guess, and so with that, I was figuring how can I make money doing this, and what I came up with was being able to do real estate. And after doing some research into real estate, it was stated that if you can do indoor photos as well as the drone photos, you can charge a lot more money. Um, you're worth more. So I went out and I bought the cheapest Canon camera. It was a Canon M50. Um, Mind you, back this was just 3 years ago, and I waited for the real estate jobs to come rolling in, which actually never happened. Uh, so while I was waiting, I took the little M50 out and was taking photographs here and there, and people were like, "Hey, that's amazing!" And actually, some people asked me if they could purchase prints. So I was like, "Oh, well, maybe I'm good at this photography stuff," and just kept doing it. And I think my skills got better and better. It's funny if I look back at the first set of photos I took compared to what I take now, even in just those 3 years, how much uh, my photography skills have advanced. It's pretty amazing. So I don't know. It's just it's fun to go out. It's fun to shoot. I get to meet good friends like Mike here, who's doing the interview. Um, I've got a group of guys that I go out. I'm primarily landscape or urban photography, so we go out together, and that I think would say that's a big draw towards it. And it's something I enjoy, and apparently I'm good at it. So
Can you describe your favorite project or moment in photography?
my most favorite. Well, I've only been doing it for 3 years, so there's not a ton of uh, experiences, I guess I would say, to draw from here. But let me think. I might be thinking for a little bit. I don't know if I have specifically have a favorite. What I will say is that I think I've found that I enjoy, or I'm starting to enjoy, doing more like nighttime photography. Taking photos at night, it just seems to make the colors pop a little bit more, especially if you're like in downtown Buffalo here in this area. Um, you can get some pretty amazing shots. The colors really pop. Uh, even from the beginning, early on, I would say I was quickly a light snob. I normally don't go out in the middle of the day. I usually go out either early morning or sunset or later on in the evening. But again, we've been staying out later and later, and of course the day is getting shorter, and I find when the lights come on, I seem to like uh, taking photos during that time period the most. Probably my most favorite, I would say, photograph is the one I was showing you earlier with the Peace Bridge at night. You can see a little bit. The sun was down a little bit, um, and the lights on the Peace Bridge, and then you had it was a long exposure, so you had the traffic and the light trails on the side. It just really strikes me. However, I will say, last night, the camera club I belong to, they did a presentation on light painting. They did a presentation on light painting, and they gave us all a chance to take photographs using that. And those photos came out pretty a lot better than I thought they would, and they're pretty cool. It probably takes a while to get to the level because the guys who are doing the light painting have been doing it for a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years now. Probably takes a while to get to their level, but that's definitely something I would think I would maybe even like to try doing more is getting into light painting and yeah, I mean, like I said, those photos came out really nifty.
What genre of photography do you specialize in?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because if you'd asked me even just 4 or 5 months ago, I would hands down right away said landscape photographer. But then as I was going through my photos, because I actually just did a calendar, I come to realize that I'm not really taking photographs of landscape. What you typically think of landscape. The sunset over a field with a barn or something like that. A lot of my photographs are maybe what you would consider urban photography because there's a lot of man-made structures in it. Again, the Peace Bridge. Um, for those that are familiar with the area, there's Lockport. They have old locks from way back in the 1800s. I took some photos of that with a boat in it. Trying to think what other, I got other bridge pictures. So a lot of the photographs I have actually have man-made structures in it. So they're not your typical, what you would call landscape. And I guess you would call that maybe urbanscape photography. So, there, that's what I would say my forte is. I'm not good with, I guess, like giving instruction to people. So I thought maybe I'd be, every once in a while doing portraiture, because that's always where the money is, right? Portraiture, weddings, stuff like that. I've always had that in my head, but I'm not good at giving people direction like that. you know, um, Having them do poses for me, stuff like that. Just, I don't know. I'm not, I don't know. It's just not a skill that I have. So,
Yeah, I don't do direction well either.
yeah. That's the thing. Like, like even with like you do the concert photography, at least you're not asking them to pose for you. You're having them. Right. So
Do you have any tips you can share that improved your photos?
tips or techniques. Um, the biggest tip I would say, if you can't always do it, but I would say slow down when you're taking your photos, especially again landscape, urbanscape. Slow down, take your time, think about what you want the image, what do you want out of the image. Um, I find if I feel like I'm rushed or whatever, uh, I'll go to outings where maybe somebody wants to go home early or something, and if I feel rushed, it's usually when I come home with photographs I don't really care for. One of the techniques I would say that I do is I do exposure bracket a lot. Um, Panoramas. As a matter of fact, the guy I go out with most often, he laughs at me because I calls me Panorama Dan because or Pano Dan because I'm always taking a panorama. But the nice thing I like about panoramas is that it gives you, without using a wide angle lens, that gives you the distortion around the sides. It gives you the ability to capture the whole scene. Uh, it also gives you a high resolution image as well. So if you need to crop in or um, zoom in on anything, the detail's still there. So I don't know. I could probably be better at post processing. Um, I tend to not to spend enough time maybe tweaking the photos to get the most out of them. The One of the guys, again, the same guy who calls me Pano Dan, he's retired, so he'll spend hours and hours just tweaking one photograph, and I'm kind of like, well, I work a 9 to 5 job. I don't have to. Plus, I'm trying to do a YouTube channel, and on top of the photography, so uh, my time is there's not a lot of spare time, I guess, to be tweaking my photos. So I do. a decent edit on them, I think, but I don't probably spend as much time as I should.
What photographers have influenced you?
Uh, well, it's funny because I'm a self-taught photographer. Didn't really go to any official school for it, so I actually learned on YouTube. And I would say I do have some favorite photographers on YouTube. Uh, One of them is Nick Page. If you don't know who he is, I highly recommend you look him up. He's actually based out of the West Coast in Oregon, I think. I think it's Oregon or Washington, but he's in that area, and the photos he takes and are just amazing. Another photographer I like. I don't think he necessarily um, gives a lot of tips on his channel, but he definitely has a sense of humor. His name is Gavin Hardcastle. I believe his actual official name of the YouTube channels is called Photo Tripper, Fototripper. I think I spelled that right. But he takes amazing photos, and you know his sense of humor is right up my alley. I try to inject humor into my YouTube channel, but I don't do it anywhere. I probably don't do it at all. Not like he does, but yeah, I'd say those two are probably the most influential. All my influential photographers, I would say, are YouTubers, except for um, again the one guy I go out with a lot. His name is Bob Hardick, and he does some pretty good stuff. He was a wedding photographer for many years, back when didn't have the digital, he had the film. So I tell you what, kudos to anybody who used to shoot film or still does. Um, that's pretty incredible when you don't know what your photograph is like or looks like until you get it developed. It's nice with digital. You take the photograph, oh, that didn't come out right, so you take it again. Film, you don't have that. So kudos, all due respect to people who used to shoot film or still do.
What equipment or gear do you use to take photos?
Um, well, the camera I use right now, I mean, I'd love to get a Canon R5, but I just can't afford that right now, because, like I said, I haven't been making much money at uh, photography, if I'm making a profit at all. But the camera I'm using right now is a crop sensor. It's the Canon EOS 90D. Excellent camera. For the APS-C, for it's not mirrorless, it's a DLSR. Uh, I love the camera. There's just some features, and it's probably more because I do the YouTube stuff, YouTube channel as well, where I feel like the R5 would help me out more in that endeavor. But the 90D, even if I get an R5, I would probably keep that 90D because um, it's a great camera. I do with my YouTube channel. I do try to give tips and tricks uh, where I can, advice, techniques, stuff like that. So I do take my GoPro with me when I go out. Uh, Again, the guy I go out with a lot laughs at me because my backpack weighs about 80 pounds, but it's because it's not just the photography stuff and the lenses for that, but it's all the uh, the video stuff so that I carry along with me. So
How do you approach composition and framing in your photos?
I've put a lot of thought into this because I do want to become uh, you know someone that people come to for advice. How do I do this? How do I do that? It's part of what my YouTube channel is got started was I want to um, help people learn how to do photography, enjoy it like I do. And that's one of the things that I feel is very hard to talk about. Like, how do you approach a scene? How do you come up with a composition? And I don't know. I will say I don't just stand there and just look and say, okay, I'm going to take a picture. I do tend to move around. What's the best angle? What's going to be distracting in the frame. I know people work really hard at it, and I'm not saying that I'm super great at it, but I don't know. To me, I find it kind of comes easy. I guess that's a natural talent sometimes. Sometimes, um, again, I feel bad because I know people work really hard at it. Uh, and that's not to say that I'm always successful. For everybody, I think there's something that you see with your eye, and you think, oh, that'd make a great photo. And you take a photo of it, and you get home, and you're like, what was I thinking? This doesn't look, great at all. It's that age old. How do you take a 3D or what your eye perceives and put it into a 2D flat photograph, and doesn't always translate. Um, but one of the things I always do is I try to make sure that there's some kind of interest in the photo. It's not just a beautiful vista. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with those, um, but my style, I try to excuse me. But with my style, I try to make sure that there's some form of interest, something to catch your eye, draw your attention to. I think that's something that um, tends to make a photograph more better, if you will. Just something besides a general picture. I will say this: don't take a snapshot. Don't just stand there at eye level and take the photograph that everybody, anybody can take. That's what's going to make that to me. I think that's what make the excellent photographers stand out above all the rest. Is if you look at their work, it's a different perspective than if you were just standing there. It's not a snapshot. It's a photograph. There was intentional thought behind it. There was thought as to what is uh, what is my subject. How's the viewer's eye going to travel through the photograph? How is are there aids that can be in there, leading line? Everyone here's leading lines and rule of thirds and all that stuff. And not that you always have to stick with those, but they're kind of guidelines. I don't call them rules; I call them more guidelines. But there's reasons why they're guidelines. It's because they work. And so
Can you tell us a challenging or unique experience you have had?
the challenge I would say sometimes I have is, as you can tell, I'm not a svelte guy. I'm a man of larger girth. And I would say sometimes getting to a location and getting back, sometimes not even getting there, it's getting back. That's the hardest part. That's maybe my biggest challenge. There was a place I went to go shoot. It was actually a man-made waterfall, and there was a mill on the side. And to get there, you had to kind of. There was no easy way to get there, so I kind of went down like a little ledge, and at that point, I'm standing in the water, and a photograph came out nice, but getting back out was not pleasant. And I'm sure if people had seen me or if people were watching, I'm sure they got a laugh out of it. So, you know what? Now that I've been talking, there are things that are challenging. More recently, I've been using my drone more and more to take photographs and actually YouTube videos to add to my YouTube video. And for some reason, I like to think I'm not recording and hit the record button and actually stop the recording on the drone. So here I'm thinking I'm getting all this great footage and doing these, risky maneuvers and stuff. And come to find out when I get home that I recorded the first 2 minutes of taking off and flying, and then I turned off the video recording. So that's probably my biggest challenge, and the footage that I've missed and I've lost opportunities, I'm kicking myself, and I don't know what it is. I should just look and check and make sure that drone tells you when it's recording, when it's not, and for whatever reason, I got a mental block that I just don't check that. And so that's probably my biggest challenge: making sure that my drone is recording when I'm flying my drone.
Do you have a favorite location or setting?
Uh, we were talking about this earlier. I would have to say um, downtown Buffalo at night. Um, Again, it's just something about that night photography with the colors of the lights and just. I guess I feel like there's a bit of mystery in the photograph when you take it at night, because when it's not lit, it's deep shadow. Been doing it, taking the drone, doing time lapses with the drone at sunset during sunset of the city, stuff like that. Got a couple of those actually on my YouTube channel featured in some of my videos. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of places I want to go to. Um, Problem is, they're kind of further away, and working a 9 to 5 job, it's not like I can just go off and be gone for days and you to go photograph some of the places I want. If you look at my Google Maps, I've got places pinpointed all over New York um, that I want to go to, but I don't know. One of these days, if the price of RVs ever come back down, I'd love to get like a small, uh, either a small trailer I can tow behind my truck, or better yet, one of those little minivans converted over to they have a bed and then some basic necessities in it to travel and be able to spend an overnight. Because again, like I said before, I'm a little bit of a light snob, so that's probably one of the biggest things is I like early morning, late late evening sunset.
Golden hour.
What's that?
Golden hour.
Yes, the golden hours, blue hours. Problem with that is, if I'm traveling far away, either I got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get there before the sun comes up, or I'm coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning after sunset. So to have, if I could have like a little van or trailer or whatever, just go out there and stay overnight. I think that would give me more opportunities for more photographs. But
In the digital age, how do you manage and edit your photos?
like I mentioned before, I always have three memory cards. One's in a camera, one's usually in a reader, and one is in the a little box I carry. Very often, I say it's in the reader. I shouldn't say it's in the reader. It's in the little box next to the reader. A lot of times I do take, I get home, I take the memory card out as soon as I get home, and I put it in the reader. I download it. I have a NAS drive at home. I download it to my hard drive, import it in Lightroom, and then if I have video, I also have a video section, and I actually have a template for my video projects, and I just take all the footage and dump it into that. Um, and then as time allows, I edit my photos, and I use Lightroom and Photoshop. Uh, those are the two that I've learned on. I shoot in RAW. I don't shoot in JPEG. Everything I used to shoot in RAW and JPEG together, but I found that I was just deleting the JPEGs and just using the RAW. I try not to edit too heavily. A RAW photo, for those of you who use them, you probably know this. For those of you who don't, may not know this, but a RAW photo is it's very flat. If you look at it, it looks kind of like almost like foggy or misty or faded. So if you're shooting a RAW, you almost always need to edit it. Doesn't mean you need to edit it heavily, but generally you're going to need to edit that. Um, JPEG, I just found that, if I did some of the editing I wanted to do on it, I was getting artifacts in the image, or, pixelating or stuff like that, because there's data that's lost. Um, and I just learned how to edit in RAW.
What's the role of storytelling in your photos?
Storytelling, I don't know as if I always have storytelling in mind when I take the photo. I will say it's more of the connection to the scenery that I see there, the emotional connection that I'm always trying to convey. Um, you know, a lot of times when I'm out shooting photos, it's just that sense of awe. Whether it's nature and what God's created in nature, or if it's something that man has built. There's some pretty amazing structures and stuff that you know man has built. Uh, a lot of them are awe-inspiring, and that's usually what I'm trying to capture in my photos, and just the beauty that the world has to offer. Uh, I don't know. I'm not that deep to really think about it, I guess.
How do you find inspiration for new projects or ideas?
I don't know. Sometimes it's watching YouTube, the photographers I like on YouTube. I watch them, see what they're doing. I mentioned Nick Page and Gavin Hardcastle. Those are two of my favorite, but there are probably five or six others that I watch. Um, I look to see what they're doing. Um, Try to take what I like about their photos and incorporate that into my photos. Not always successful with that, but that is something I strive to do. Um, Sometimes I gotta say, I have to kind of motivate myself to get out, but even just getting out and being out and about with the camera in hand, that's enough to inspire.
How has photography impacted your life or the way you see the world?
It's probably made me monetarily poorer. You could spend a lot of money in photography and still not have all the little gizmos and gadgets that you want. Um, Especially if you're doing photography and video, that can add up to a hefty sum. Maybe reconnected me. I tended to be, my regular 9 to 5 job is I work in IT, so I'm indoors a lot. I was finding that I was not venturing out much at all. Getting back into photography. When I was younger, I used to be outdoors all the time. Uh, as life went on, and marriage and kids and 9 to 5 and financial obligations and stuff. And I think I tended to sit more and just watch TV uh, instead of getting out. So it's gotten me out a bit more than I did. It's probably made me a more dangerous driver because I'll be driving down the road and I'll slam my brakes on because I'm like, oh, that would make a great photograph. And trying to keep that in my head that I should come back here. And how many times I do that and I go back, maybe it's half a dozen times, if that. Um, and I just about being a bit worse driver, but no, it does tend to make me look more around my surroundings. I think be more aware of what's around me, looking at, paying more attention to the details. I guess not just now when I'm driving, I'm not just driving. I'm driving and I'm looking around, see is there something I could capture here, or something that would make a good photo, and um, even at work. I work when I go downtown. I work in a high-rise building, and a lot of times I'll be, looking, thinking, hey, that would might, one of the things I've thought about doing was street photography. Although I'm not sure I could, not being that, maybe I'm not brazen enough, or I feel self-conscious, carrying a camera and trying to take people's photographs. But I don't know. I think you do tend to look more at the details of life, and not just coast through and um, ignore what's going on around you.
What advice do you have for photographers looking to start?
And I kind of mentioned earlier, don't just go up and just take a picture. And obviously there's times where that wouldn't be appropriate. Like if you're doing street photography, obviously you have to capture the moment. Probably like what Mike does with concert, it's kind of capturing a quick moment like that. But if you can, yeah, well, even with concerts, Mike, I'm sure you had to position yourself in the right place and to capture stuff. But don't just take a snapshot that everybody takes. That's another thing I try to do with my photographs. I don't like taking the photograph that everybody has. I live in Niagara Falls, or very close to Niagara Falls. I don't live in Niagara Falls, but I live very close to Niagara Falls. But I don't have a lot of photos of Niagara Falls because, unfortunately, there's only so many places where you can take photos, and everybody has them. And that's not to say that you can't take a great photograph and that can't be a great photograph. But for me and my personal style, my taste, I try to make it unique. So try to find that unique perspective. Try to find that photo that people don't have, And a lot of times it's simply just moving 4 foot to the left, 4 foot to the right, getting down low, you know, getting up high. Who knows what it is, or finding that view of a location that has been shot a lot, but the shooting it in a location or perspective that you haven't seen before. Because I do say that I do have a shot of Niagara Falls that I don't see a lot of from that angle or that location, and it's actually I sell prints, and it's actually one of my top selling prints. So, um, you know, now that I say that, seeing as that's my top selling print, maybe the advice I'm giving is wrong. If you're going into it for the monetary reason, to try to make some extra money. Um, Sometimes those iconic photographs are the ones that sell, but that's not me. That's not my style. I like to be unique. I like to get something different, and the drone has really helped with that a lot because you can put a drone. You know, some people buy drones and then they like to take photographs at 300 feet, 400 feet. I don't look at my drone as that's what I'm taking it for. I use my drone as a tool to actually put the camera in a place where I can't normally put my camera. Because it's out over in the middle of a river, or it's maybe it's high, but it's not 300 foot high, but it's 80 foot in the air, taking a photograph of a building from a perspective that you don't normally see. So just have fun, experiment. Don't take a lot of photos. Don't just take one and think you got it. Take a lot of photos. Take a lot of photos from different angles, and have fun. The name of my YouTube channel is Digimark Studios. I don't have a lot of videos out there. I've only been doing them for maybe a year and a half. I find it does make it a little challenging to do video and photograph too. Sometimes my photographs maybe suffer from it because I'm trying to capture video. I'm trying to put in that tip or trick or technique or whatever in there. My website is again, it's digimarkstudios.com. I sell prints on there. Thank you for watching. My name is Dan Hurd. I'm a photographer based out of Amherst, New York. So a lot of my photographs are in Western New York. And thank you for watching. If you like the video, you found an information or anything, go ahead and give it a like. Subscribe to Mike's channel if you haven't already. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. Feel free to come on over and visit my channel. And most of my videos are from the Western New York area, little exploits when I video when I go out and take photographs. So I always appreciate the views. I always appreciate the subscriptions and likes. Um, that's sometimes why you do the YouTube. It's nice to know that all the effort you put into the YouTube videos is being appreciated. So sorry, I don't know. Yay! Do you need something for the thumbnail?